I recently got married. My husband James worked for the same company. Although we worked in different departments, we met through a mutual friend and developed a relationship. James is a man who has his own thoughts. He is not a man of many words, but he is able to judge things calmly. Nevertheless, when we are alone together, we can talk about unimportant things, so there is no awkwardness or boredom when we are together. I respected James very much because of my indecisive nature. He was also a good partner who kept me in line and made me think things over, even though I had a tendency to act on my own impulses. After 3 years of dating, James proposed to me. What woman would refuse a proposal from a man she admires and loves? We had a happy wedding ceremony, blessed by many people, including family, relatives, friends, and business associates. Of course, the happiness continues even now that we are married. James's job was in the sales department, so he was busy every day and sometimes returned home past midnight. I have a clerical job and always finish on time, so my weekday routine consisted of shopping for meals, cooking slowly, doing laundry, cleaning, and waiting for James's return. On my days off, I took it easy so as not to be exhausted from the week. On this particular day, we woke up late and enjoyed brunch together. Breakfast on a holiday? Lunch? It's delicious, isn't it? You can eat at your leisure.
I agree. We're always too busy.
I'd like to think about having children when things settle down a bit more.
I'd like to consider a home with you.
Even casual conversation with James made me happy. On this particular day, James agreed to clean up after me because I am always the only one doing the housework. As he was washing the dishes, I heard the ringtone of James's phone. James, your phone is ringing. I'll call you back later. Leave it as it is. So I started to clean the room without paying attention to it. Within a few minutes, James's phone rang again. I wondered who it was. I looked at the screen and saw my Mill's name. James, your mother is calling? Yes? James picked up the phone with a sigh. Hello? I wondered what he was talking about, and he replied, "It's not good to be told out of the blue. Victoria is over there too." He looked troubled. It was obvious that he was having trouble with his mother. My Mill had been living with my SIL Victoria at her house since her husband had died in a car accident a year before. I have a very hard time with my Mill and SIL. This is because 2 years after James and I started dating, James and I were talking about marriage. So we went to my PIL's house to greet them. When we arrived there, they welcomed us warmly with smiles and everyone was chatting with each other. I was very nervous, but this friendly atmosphere made me feel completely at ease. In the middle of our conversation, James stood up to use the restroom. As soon as James left the room, my Mill and SIL changed.
Your clothes are so old-fashioned. Your hair and makeup are so tacky. Did my brother have such bad taste?
Victoria, my SIL, looked at me and snickered.
Yes, I'm sure she's a beautiful woman since James said he's dating her seriously. But come to think of it, not everyone is as pretty as Victoria, so it can't be helped.
Oh, I see.
She laughed and made fun of me. I was so surprised at the sudden change in my Mill and Victoria that I was at a loss for words. It was all I could do to hold back my tears.
What is it? What is it? Are you crying? We both just told the truth, didn't we?
Just when I thought I was about to burst into tears, James came back from the restroom. With the sound of James's footsteps, my Mill and SIL's cursing suddenly stopped. Perhaps sensing the strange atmosphere in my face, James said, "Shall we go home now?" and let me out of my PIL's house. On the ride home, he asked me if anything had happened, to which I replied that nothing had happened. I knew I could not speak ill of James's family, but James, knowing that I could not lie, stopped the car.
Haley, tell me the truth. I'm serious about my future with you. I need you to tell me the truth, too.
He looked into my face. When I saw James's gentle expression, the tears I had been holding back began to overflow, and I couldn't stop. I told him everything that had happened at James's parents' house.
That's it. I'm so sorry. I'll stay away from my parents' house after we get married. Of course, I won't go to my parents' house.
Because of this, I never went there after marriage. It's not that I didn't care, but I just couldn't bring myself to go there. I thought to myself, as expected, does that mean we have to show up? I waited for James to finish his phone call. After he hung up, James's expression was very dark. I could tell by the look on his face that it was not a good story. What's wrong? Are you okay?
That's why my mother wants us to move in with her.
What? James's words made my mind go blank. That day came back to me like a running light. She hated me so much, so why now?
You don't want to live with my mother, do you?
Yes. To be honest, I'm scared of living with her.
I don't want to see you sad or in pain, he said.
However, after that day, James and my phone rang repeatedly with incoming calls from my mill as if she was harassing us. She would call no matter what time of day or night it was, and it began to affect our work. I was fine, but James was a salesman, so he could not turn off his phone, and every day his mother's incoming calls were mixed in with the work calls. Witnessing James's distress, I decided to answer the incoming call from my mill out of the goodness of my heart. Then please think seriously about moving in together. It will be good for both of you in the future. It continued for more than 30 minutes. I thought that we were getting nowhere, so I suggested to James that we go to my PIL's house to talk about it. James was very worried about my going to there, but I reassured him that I would be fine, and we decided to have a meeting. The day of the meeting, as soon as we arrived at my PIL's house, my mill hugged me. Haley, I am so sorry for what happened. Please forgive us for our rude behavior. She tearfully apologized. I had never imagined that such a thing would happen. I froze like a stone. James was also very surprised. Oh, Mill, don't apologize so much. But I really wanted to apologize for hurting you so deeply. She repeated apology over and over again. But I really wanted to apologize for hurting you so deeply. She repeated apology over and over again. So I questioned my Mill. Mel, why did you suddenly decide to move in with us? Then,
Victoria is getting married soon. If she leaves this house, I will be all alone, won't I? I'm worried about that.
even this Mill must be lonely. I was also shaken to my core when she cried like this. And I began to think that if she had reformed, I would like to move in with her for the sake of her, who would grow older from now on. Hey, James, let's move in with your mother.
What? Is that okay? You didn't want to, did you?
I'll be fine. I want to take care of your mother. And so, without giving it much thought, I decided to move in with my Mill. However, reality was not so sweet. My Mill and Victoria were kind to me only on the day we moved in. The next morning, when James left for work, my Mill and Victoria began snoring at me early.
Haley, what is this laundry? They're still dirty, so you'll have to redo them.
With that, my Mill threw all the dried laundry on the ground. While I was preparing dinner, Victoria came over and opened the pot I was cooking in and started eating. Hey, what is it? This tasteless food. Even my mother can't eat this disgusting food. Make it again. She turned the whole pot over in the sink. It's terrible, too terrible. Still, I tried my best to talk to my Mill and Victoria in a peaceful manner, as if I had to live in harmony with them. But I was completely ignored. As soon as I moved in with them, I wanted to run away. However, I could not tell James about my shortcoming of not thinking things through. I didn't want to burden James, who was exhausted from work, any further. On the first holiday after moving in together, I was relieved in the morning because James was there. Then, while we were all drinking tea together, Victoria said, "I'm getting married." "But Haley, you're not coming." She said this in front of James and me. James immediately reacted to Victoria's words.
Victoria, are you crazy? Haley is your family. She's your SIL, isn't she?
I told him that Haley is my housekeeper, and it would be embarrassing to have a housekeeper at the wedding. Besides, Haley is ugly, so I don't want him to think of me as his SIL.
She said without hesitation and without bravado. Following Victoria, my Mill said, "Well, I don't want Haley to be considered a member of the family. I want Haley to stay at home." She laughed quietly.
That's enough. Apologize to Haley. She's my wife.
James yelled at her, but his Mill and Victoria looked at him as if they didn't know him. They just laughed and laughed. I told James, "James, it's okay. I'm fine. As long as Victoria and my Mill say so, the atmosphere of the wedding will be disturbed if I participate. But James is her own brother, so you should participate. The star of the wedding is the bride." Really, I was fine with that. I was rather lucky because I did not want to attend Victoria's wedding in the first place. I hoped that Victoria would get married soon and leave this house, and my stress would decrease. Then came the day of the wedding. Victoria had stayed at the hotel where the ceremony was to be held since the day before in order to prepare for the wedding. It was supposed that they would make it official after the ceremony was over. In the morning, she reminded me again.
Haley, don't come. I'm counting on you to take care of house.
I understand. I replied to my mill, and she left with a satisfied smile. After seeing James and my mill off, I got ready to leave. I was instructed by a person to go to a cafe near the ceremony site. I went to the cafe as planned, and while killing time, I received a call asking me to come to the waiting room 2 hours after the ceremony started, so I headed to the waiting room of the ceremony hall at that time. I arrived at the bride's waiting room, knocked, and entered. Then Victoria, who was in the process of changing her clothes, looked at me with a startled look on her face.
She looked at me with a look of shock. Wait, why are you here? I told you not to come, didn't I? You're my housekeeper.
Yes, that's right. I told you not to come here. Now go home.
Then Victoria's fiancé, Tyler, opened the door to the waiting room and came in.
Victoria, I heard you talking outside the door. What is this all about?
What? Why?
Victoria's face instantly changed color and she was plainly upset.
Was the person who told you she was a housekeeper your SIL? How dare you call your SIL a housekeeper? You're such an asshole.
No, Tyler. There's a reason for this.
What's the difference? It's no use fooling around.
The voice recorder began to play the sound of Victoria and my mill picking on me. Victoria and her mill's faces grew paler and paler.
Why do you have such such a thing.
After a pause, Victoria and my mill both glared at me at the same time.
You evil bitch. I'll never forgive you.
Saying that, she started to hit me, but James appeared and caught Victoria by the arm.
Brother, is this?
I'm the one who recorded you and Mom's voices and gave them to Tyler. So Haley has nothing to do with this.
That's right. That's James. The day before the ceremony, I was asked by James, could you come to a cafe near the ceremony site tomorrow? And when I call you, I want you to come to the bride's waiting room from there. Can you come without saying anything? Uh-huh. Okay, I said. This was all planned by James, my husband, for me. He had been so concerned about me up to this point. I didn't care about Victoria and my mill. I was just happy for James's feelings.
James, that's how you did this.
You guys hurt my wife a lot. I will never forgive you. I'm going to cut off all ties with you.
James, what are you talking about?
Isn't it obvious? It was you who had said you would be lonely and wanted us to live together. But a housekeeper, don't be ridiculous. Haley is my precious wife.
Then her fiancé, Tyler, followed.
I can't marry a scumbag like you either. Let's pretend this never happened.
Saying that, he left the room.
Wait, Tyler, it's not like that. There is a reason for this.
Victoria and my mill chased after him, but he did not look back and went into the groom's waiting room. Victoria sobbed loudly in front of the groom's waiting room. My mill was trying her best to comfort Victoria. James and I left the ceremony hall. We returned to my PIL's house and packed our belongings. We headed for our new home, which James had already signed a contract for. I had never felt more dependable than I did at that moment. My love for James grew deeper than ever. Needless to say, Victoria was heartbroken afterwards. when the engagement was called off. She went abroad by herself to heal her wounded heart. She had lost her place in the world because of the ugliness of her life. This is probably the real story in these places. I don't know how she is spending her time. After Victoria left, my Mill called us and said, "I miss you. It's your fault that things turned out this way. I've cut off my ties with you and Victoria, so please don't call me again." James coldly dismissed her. Since then, James and I have had no involvement with either my Mill or Victoria. We started living in our new house and are enjoying our days as peaceful and tranquil as before. In fact, we had a child soon after that, and I am now on maternity leave. Soon we will be a family of 3. I want to live together with James so that this happiness will last forever.